how do you maximize yourself? I'll use the same analogy I said with division wrestlers is, they all know how to work hard. So you're not gonna get 100% better by just working hard. It's you gotta figure out these other things that are gonna stack on top of each other to maximize your potential. And what I found with a lot of Division I wrestlers that they relied on just hard working because that was all they knew. And if they would have just changed their mindset a little bit, they probably would have had more success and more enjoyment. And they're like, oh shit, I wish I could have done that over.
Welcome to the Hard Way podcast with Joe Sena, founder and CEO of Spartan Races. We're teaching you how to overcome your obstacles in your life the same way we teach our 10 million plus Spartans to overcome obstacles on the course. With insight from the smartest, most accomplished experts from every corner of the world. Get ready to elevate your life today.
Joe Sena here, CEO and founder of Spartan. I got a great guest here, my buddy Ben Askren. We wrote a book together. Check out this book, Extreme Balance. I hate the word balance, but he forced the name.
Well, Joe's gonna get balanced.
I don't know if I'm gonna get balanced.
We're gonna bring out your full potential by giving you some balance.
You're gonna be right. My mom tried. I just like to grind. I push that message of grinding. You're a grinder.
I'm a grinder.
But somehow this idea popped in your head.
Yeah.
Because you said to me, hey, I got this idea.
Yeah.
I said, I'm in. Where'd this come from? From a grinder. Why did a little yoga enter your brain?
So, we go back to the conversation we were having earlier about zooming out and having that 40,000 foot view sometimes, right? And you look down and you say, how can I make myself as successful as possible, right? Focusing on the process and outcome. If you just focus on the process and you never zoom out and look at what you want the outcome to be, you're gonna miss some things. So how do I want myself to be as good as possible? And so I started recognizing, if I do this a little bit differently. And so like the first gigantic one for me, and then probably what I'm known for is, early in my life, I thought, I'm just gonna outwork everyone.
Which would resonate with me.
It's great. And listen, so I said about Division I college wrestling is like, by the time you get there, everyone's a pretty damn hard worker. Like maybe you can work a little harder, but you can't work 100% harder than the field. You can work 10%, 20% harder. So what I figured out in my first year of college is I got to figure out a little different way to have the success I want to have. And that was where the scrambling came from. So then it became, I'm going to outwork them and I'm going to outthink them, right? So now I'm finding this other avenue to use my mental skills to figure out, people are there, when the wrestling can keep going, they're stopping right here. So then I can make up this move, this move, this move, and this move. And so then when we go here, they have when I was college wrestling, they have no idea what I'm doing. They're lost because they don't know these moves because I just made them up,
And it's not a thing yet where people are studying it. There's no film at this point in time.
Yeah. So it's like a thing. It's like I can outwork them and I can outthink them, And then, more and more of these things. I talked about the injury thing, pushing through the pain and pulling back the reins. And so, there was one time.
Because early in your career, the philosophy was push through the pain.
I had this neck injury, right? And I just kept pushing because you get a stinger, it hurts really bad for like, say 15 minutes. It goes away and then you after say 30, 45 minutes, you probably don't feel it too much. But I hit it so many times that I lost all the strength in my one arm, right? Because essentially the nerves get swollen and then it cuts off. So I lost all the strength in my arm. It's like, well, if I would have just in the beginning, if I just would have pulled back a little bit, then now I wouldn't have to sit out for 6 weeks because I have no strength in my arm. Right. So it's like learning to do those things and learning where, okay, I know I'm tough. I know I can push if I need to, but is this going to make it worse? So where do I pull back, right? So kind of like through the course of my career, experimenting on myself of how can I make myself the most effective type thing. And then, we go into chapter 5, caring deeply and keeping in perspective. That's probably my first personal experience with this book.
Wait, I want to stop.
Sure,
I want to stop because you're in the middle of your life unfolding.
Yeah.
You're doing what everybody's telling you to do and what we instinctually do as humans, which is grind to death, tape it up, fight through the neck pain. Yeah. When does the switch go on with, all right, I'm going to scramble, and wow, actually that worked? So that one was my freshman year of college where I really started, tinkering and toying, and then, it's one of those things where, and this is like be process, not outcome based, but I think, okay, I zoomed out, I gotta figure out some more of these positions because I can't just beat people with basic wrestling because they're just, they're a little more athletic than me and I can't outwork them here. And so I start going down that path and I have some success and it's like, oh, wait, I think there's something here. Right. So you have some success and then you keep going and you find more success. Right. You find more success and you're like, oh, I freaking got, there's been things with Spartan Race, right, where
I'm sure there's been a few ventures where you started and you thought this is going to be great, and it sucks.
And it sucks.
It sucks,
Or the reverse.
But there's been the reverse where you start and you're like, I don't really know if this is going to be so good. And then all of a sudden, boom, it blows up and you're like, whoa. And so you keep going.
But here's a question for the audience and for me. At that moment where you're going to scramble more and maybe spend more time, using your brain, a little more cerebral, a little less work, it's scary.
It was a little scary, but at the same time, I felt like it was the only path forward because I realized what I had, and I was like moderately successful for just one wrestler, but I wasn't where I wanted to be. So it's like, well, you're never going to get crazy different results if you just keep doing the same thing. And that's what a lot of people in America, and probably in the whole world, right? It's probably human nature. They just accept the results they're having and they think they can't change it. And so they keep doing the same thing they're doing and maybe they get incrementally better. It's just a little bit, But I needed to go from here to here.
Right.
So I can't just get a little better. I got to get a lot better. So it's like, what other avenues can I pursue to get all the way over to here and make that gigantic jump in skill level?
So that gave you the open mind to try new things.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, my college coaches were great. They didn't hammer me when I made mistakes. They realized I was really into it. I really loved it. And they gave me the leeway to try to figure things out myself, And then, then when I started having success, they saw that something was brewing. They could tell something was happening. And then they really said, just
run with it.
Just run with it. Go for it. Figure it out. Like you're smart.
Is that the play wrestling that everybody talks about?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was, we do got to go back to my freshman year of high school at some point. But so yeah, this is like my freshman year of college.
Okay.
And one thing that I talk about with Askren Wrestling Academy is that you can love wrestling for what it gives you, the externalities. I'm going to get a college scholarship, or people are going to think I'm really tough, or I might get a girlfriend, or something silly like this, right? I get some call players. But like for me, and this is what for a lot of kids at AWA and why we're having so much, they love wrestling for wrestling. I was excited to go in the next day and think like, okay, yesterday I was almost figuring this new scramble out. I'm going to go in there, I'm going to put myself there 100 times, and I'm just going to try to see where it goes and figure it out, And then the next day I come in, I got that. So now I got this piece to it. Now I got to add the next piece. And so it was like for, a 5-7 year window there, it's like I'm on the cutting edge of what's happening in wrestling, and I'm going in every day with an excitement to try to figure out the next piece to the puzzle. And so I always talk to kids about like, enjoy wrestling because wrestling's fun. I think, and a lot of people don't think that. Like, I freaking love wrestling. And now, I'm 40, so I can't do it every day, but if Mitchell Messermick or Keegan O'Toole or Aiden Sinclair, if they come back to the room, I love shaking the hand, just trying to whoop their ass, Because with the high school kids, I can't just beat them up because it's like I'm their coach. My goal is to get them better, so I can't just hammer them. But then when they're grown men and they're capable to battle back, we can just shake hands and we can fight, and that's fun sometimes.
Not the same, but like have fun in running, have fun in cycling. Don't make it such a grind and such have fun with it.
Absolutely. And I think everyone can find that in the
whatever
activities.
They're in depth,
And there's enough activities where it's like if you don't love one, like for me, I hate running. There are some people who love running. Like I don't know, I don't get it. I don't love it. But there's some people who love it. Great. There's enough activities to find something that you love, right?
That's why we added obstacles. We made running fun.
There you go.
Freshman high school.
Okay, so freshman year in high school, that's carry deeply and keeping it in perspective. And so I had a coach, Terry Steiner, at that time. I think he's the women's national coach at this point. He's national champ, but Iowa, and he was the Wisconsin, the state coach. So I had went all into wrestling my freshman year. I quit all the other sports and I just wrestled. And listen, there's no year-round wrestling. This is 1999. There's no year-round wrestling clubs. There's one club that goes March, April, May in Wisconsin. There's literally nothing from May to November. So it's like I gotta find people to come wrestle in my basement. I gotta find some camps to go to. I gotta patchwork it together because I said this is what I want to do. And so I had made this decision, almost a year before at Fargo. This was the summer after my freshman year. So I made the decision roughly 12 months before that. I'm all in. This is what I want to do. I want to be great at this thing. And so I had worked really, really, really hard. It's grinded, no days off type thing. And I went and I flopped. I went 0-2 and I got my butt kicked twice. And
with all that work,
it's all the work. But it was completely because of carry deeply and keep it in perspective. I didn't keep it in perspective. I went to Fargo and I said, this is my chance. If I get this, I'm gonna get a college scholarship. People recognize me. this is Fargo. There's 4,000 wrestlers. Oh, look at these brackets. These guys are state champions. This and that. Oh, I might wrestle this guy and this guy and this guy, and all these thoughts. So I've totally failed to keep in perspective. I wore myself out mentally. I had performance anxiety, and I performed terribly. So like, I wasn't the best in the country at that point, but I surely wasn't an 0-2 guy. Like, I was better than that, And so I totally flopped because I didn't keep it in perspective, and I got that performance anxiety. And my coach Terry Sena sat me down. He said, "Hey man, I had this exact same issue, and here are some of the ways that I dealt with it, And so one of those ways was like, and this was the avenue that I took in it, and I went all the way in the next year, and then after that, I feel like there's very few performances in my life where I'm like, that was a terrible performance given the skill level I was at, right? So if I'm at this skill level, if I had you go wrestle Cael Sanderson, you can perform to your best, you are not going to beat him.
Right. It'd be close.
Right? So it's like, I actually got drilled by Cael Sanderson. When I was 18, I had to wrestle him at the US Open, and I got beat 10-0. But I did make it to the second period. I wasn't, he was a world gold medalist at that point. I was an 18-year-old. But so after that, and the strategy he gave me was take your mind off it, right? It's going to stop you from obsessing. And if you're not ready to compete by, say an hour or two ahead of the competition, you're just not going to be ready, right? Your work should have already been done. You should have trained, you should be, your strategy should be ready. All these things should be ready. And so just take your mind off it. So he said, I like to go talk about fishing because I like fishing. I hate fishing, but I'll find something, I'll find something else to talk and stay loose about. So really that was important for me.
So obsess like hell, but be loose.
Yeah, then just, keep it in perspective. This is just a wrestling match. If I lose this one, I can get better, or I can change it the next time. I'll learn something from it. And so it's like, just keep it in perspective. This is one of, probably at that point, thousands of wrestling matches we'll have in the future. And, find a way to stay relaxed and not have performance anxiety and think, oh, if I lose this, it's going to be the end of the world. So that was the first huge one for me.
When I think about our business, applying the process of writing the book with you and the philosophy into our business, I'm a get it done yesterday, simultaneously, fast, I need it now. And lately, I'm like, yes, I want all that, but I understand the reality. It's probably going to take us 3 months or 2 months, except for your stuff. It's got to be done immediately. That's a tough thing to reconcile with like all these concepts you put together.
But that's why I wanted to write this book. It's because it's really hard. And what I find a lot, now I've been coaching at AWA for 13 years. It's really easy for people to get one side of it. Like, you keep saying, right, just grind as hard as you can. That's actually much easier for people to understand than to have balance. Because then it's like, well, when do I grind and when do I not grind? Right? Or when do I push through the injury and when do I pull back? Because sometimes I can just be as tough as I can and just keep pushing through. It's a lot easier than, wait, this one's going to be smarter if I take a few days off, So a lot of these concepts are much easier to just pick one side and go with the one side. And you're going to have a good amount of success by picking one side and going hard with it. But I think you're going to not have the full extent of your potential without picking up both sides. And when I read other sports psychology books, that was how I felt. I'd say, do this, do this, do this. And then when I dealt with athletes, they were like, well, I can do this, but if I do this, then I can't do that. So if I want to grind really hard, then how do I also, pull back the reins and not
take a day off.
Take a day off, and make sure I'm healthy. Or when I was younger, so Coach Messermick at my high school, his son is Mitchell Messermick, who made the NCAA finals last year, and he coached with the AWA. He had this Ironman. If you were on time to every single practice all year and you made every morning run, you get Ironman. I won every year, right? Didn't miss one practice, wasn't ever late. Did miss 0 matches. But there was a bunch of those matches that I was sick or I wasn't feeling good, and I just did it, right? Because I was tough. But now it's like, I look at the research, if you're getting a little bit sick and you continue to push yourself, you're going to make that, go on 5 days or something, and where you could have just got some rest and been done in a day. Right. Now, and this is where it's tough. This is tough because it's balanced. Like, you want to teach yourself to operate in suboptimal conditions because I don't know, maybe you are going to get sick the day before the state tournament. So you want to be able to perform when you feel terrible. But at the same time, it's like, well, why not take 1 day off and feel good for the other 4, then feel bad for 5 days straight? You know, so that's like that.
No,
But it's hard. It's really hard. You know,
hard to reconcile.
Yeah.
I mean, when you and I were working out earlier, you made some sense of it by saying, look, if it's the Olympics and your lung got punctured, you're going for it. You're not taking time off.
No,
right?
It's the Olympics. What are you going to do?
But if it's 4 months before and we've got time to recover, you're recovering.
Absolutely. And that's why, I mean, this book is like, you know, the first time when David, you know, when we kind of finished it and I read through the full manuscript at one time, I was like, oh, this is hard. This is hard. I'm like, should we make it easier? But then the whole reason we made the book was because it is hard. Because it's much easier just to pick one side and say, I'm just going to do this. And you'll get pretty good if you're extreme and you pick one side of it. But then the balance, that's what makes you great.
Actually, as you're talking, I think of Kyle Dake. Said to me, obviously worked like you did, like you just described that Ironman series where you just didn't quit and showed up every day. But he had a lot of injuries and then he woke up one day and has a new philosophy. And I've run into Pat Bruckey at Stanford recently and he said, you know, it's going to sound crazy, but I think I worked too hard.
For sure.
So you hear that. But my question is, this is a big one, is we are designed as human beings to work less, to do less, to relax more, to avoid. So like we're designed for less. That's what makes it so hard.
Yeah, well, so I think I posed this question to John this morning at breakfast as I was thinking about this and we were talking about Division I wrestlers. So as we're talking about Division I wrestler, you are talking about the top 1%, right? And so it's like when we're talking about hard workers, well, if you made it that far, most of the not hard workers, they're already gone, you know? So it's like, I don't know, like maybe this book is written towards the highest end of performance because are there a lot of people who just don't put in enough effort? Yeah, of course there are, right? And so, but when we get to say a Division I wrestler, are other elite performers, whether it's in business, whether it's in mixed martial arts, whatever it is, you know, the elite performers, and there's, you know, in wrestling, we say Division I athletes, there's a couple thousand of them. So, you know, where there's 100, I will say 1 million elite performers in America out of 330 million. Seems like a fair number. This is written to those people, to like, how do you maximize yourself? I'll use the same analogy I said with Division I wrestlers is, they all know how to work hard. So you're not gonna get 100% better by just working hard. It's you gotta figure out these other things that are gonna stack on top of each other to maximize your potential. And you know, what I find with a lot of Division I wrestlers that comes to a point of, they realize if they just would have done things a little differently, but they relied on just hard working because that was all they knew. And if they would have just changed their mindset a little bit, they probably would have had more success and more enjoyment. And they're like, oh shit, I wish I could have done that over. You know, so that's kind of like, right, this book, I'm hoping to
catch it early.
You catch it early, and you know, for a lot of it is, and we have it in the back, is just people need to analyze themselves, right? And that's the other part about it is I'm not gonna write a recipe for you. You're not gonna write, there is no recipe. When you're already an elite performer, you already know how to work hard, right? So Joe, you are probably doing millions of people a service by getting them off the couches and teaching them how to work hard. Because there's a lot of people who don't know how to do that. But for those elite performers who are already working very hard and already doing probably a lot of things in their life right, taking that next step up, it's very, very difficult. And so you're gonna need to analyze yourself. You have to have a lot of self-awareness and kind of start reading through this book and thinking, where can I make some adjustments? And you know, we talk about, in this book, we talk about, a lot of it is like competition versus practice, right? So if I wanna think a lot, I should be thinking in practice. Oh, what if I do this move a little different, you know? And then I try a little different, oh, it didn't work. Let me try a different way. Right? And then you find, you know, I'm sure, right, with your business, you run a few different tests on which is gonna work the best. But then if you're in the moment, if you're in a match, you don't have the time to say, hold on, stop, can I try that again? Like, no, you can't.
Right.
It's already over, you know? So, you know, a lot of it's between competition and practice, and obviously, you know, in business, maybe there's not as, you know, I guess I would say like building up to a race, and then in the execution of the race, you guys just got to execute.
We got to execute.
Right? You don't have time to stop
Backs against the wall.
Yeah, don't think about it. No, what if we do this different? What if we do that different? It's like, no, you got to execute on the race. And then after the race, I'm sure you guys have a sit down period and say, hey guys, what went well? What didn't go well? What can we do better next time?
A little after action report. All right, What are we going to do about the ancient Spartans who said, you know, bleed in practice so that we don't have to bleed in battle? Do we have to go back and change that
That's
saying?
great. I mean, I don't disagree with that at all. And again, we are talking to elite performers. Most of these people already give great effort. There's probably very few very elite performers who don't give great effort. And so, that saying right there says, work hard and practice, prepare so that we're having our best outcome. Listen, I believe, you're probably better at ancient history than me, I believe the Spartans still had some festivals and had some parties once in a while. And
they apparently did. I don't ever talk.
I think they did.
I don't ever talk about it, but I met with a professor in Sparta, and he said there's a famous story. Many city-states would send people to Sparta and say, hey, we need help. We got a battle brewing. We need some help. Sparta would send a general or two. The general would show up and say, hey, do you really want to get in this fight? Because we're going to bring the Spartans, and things would calm down and back off. There's a story where one of these city-states showed up, and the Spartans were like, we're in the middle of our festival. We can't leave now. And I've erased that from my memory.
But you know what?
I don't like the word balance. I'm
extreme. Listen, let's cut off half of each chapter.
Yes.
Instead of saying like, pick the best, so you say, you better just pick one.
Just do hard.
Just do hard.
Yeah. I mean, Musk, pretty damn extreme.
He absolutely is extreme.
There's no balance there.
Oh man, I would have to say there has to be though. He's someone that I don't know super deeply. Like I don't know him on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, I mean, he's in certain essences of the hard work, he's as extreme as he gets. But if I read his book right, like he does know how to kick back and have fun too. Like he probably does that almost to an extreme as well. I remember. I read his most recent book, and it's talking about, going to party or going to festivals or that type of thing. So it was like, sometimes he sleeps in his factory for 30 days, but then he also knows, when to just relax and kick back and do that type of thing. But that's not someone I know super well. I mean, one of my favorite parts about the book, and actually, the first version, I think maybe we interviewed 5-ish athletes, and then we kind of gave them the topics and said, hey, just talk about this topic, or give us what do you think about this? And we let them just run with it, and then I would kind of prod with questions, and that was some of the best parts of the book.
I mean, the Sinkovic brothers, I think about the rowers. They're buddies of mine.
That was a good one.
And their story is unbelievable. They said they won gold in Tokyo. In other words, for them, there's no balance. Like when they won gold in Tokyo, the coach, the Croatian coach, back in the fucking boat.
Yeah.
We got Paris in 4 years. No time to relax.
Well, I thought you told a story about them balancing on the last podcast we did together.
Oh, maybe we did.
I thought you said about them slowing down their cadence and not starting too fast.
No. In Paris, they did start that race out slow. But I'm talking about the 4 years between Tokyo. At least when you talk to them, they are on. And obviously, we're going to find examples of guys like throughout history that they didn't have balance.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. For sure. But then lots of times, I mean, so when you say something like that, and I guess unfortunately Elon would be an example of this, and I love him, so I'm not trying to shit on him by any sense of imagination, but you find with a lot of these extremely successful, they don't know how to have a personal life, right? I mean, Elon's had a few divorces, multiple different mothers of his children, and that's probably not ideal for those kids. Or think of Steve Jobs, had a very tumultuous relationships, and so you think about some of these people, and you could say, this is funny because this is where it is a balance, like. Is Steve Jobs better off serving humanity by doing what? Because, I mean, people, they realize Steve Jobs did Apple, but then he also saved Pixar. He also made the iPhone and iPod, which brought music to digital, right? So it's like he did like insane amount of things, but then his personal life was a total disaster. And so like he did a total disservice to his children. Right. And so it's like, was it selfish of him, or was he helping humanity? And would he be better served off serving humanity? Then it's almost like, should you let these people not have kids? Hey, you can't have kids because you're serving humanity because you're that freaking brilliant.
Very hard, I think, to play at that level and be balanced.
For real.
I mean, that's a ridiculous level. I don't know what the equivalent would be in wrestling or combat, but like, that's a ridiculous level.
Well, I mean, I think the lucky thing about wrestling and combat is they do end. There's a time in sports. There is a time where 35, 40 is pretty freaking old. Like, there's very few people still competing at that point in time. Whereas in business,
it keeps going.
You can go forever.
That's a great point.
Right? Yeah. But I mean, if a lot of times if these business people last long enough, right? So Steve Jobs unfortunately died early. I feel like they kind of figured out as they get older how to have more balance.
Marriage,
but then usually you'll find a lot of them saying, I wish I would have spent more time with my family, or these type of things. So it's like not until they get older do they have that wisdom. And so like, I always tried to read a lot about So the first thing was athletes. I read about athletes in every sport. So I would say the one thing I always talk about, we talked about Mike Tyson in the sauna today. Athletes, they always hang on too long and they always spend too much money.
Right.
So it's like, okay, Ben, don't hang on too long. Don't spend too much money. I told you, I try not to spend that much money, you know?
Right.
It's like, because that's something I realized, all the athletes that spend too much money, then they're forced to keep competing because there's no other way to make money for them.
Sure.
And then with business people, it feels like a lot of them get to the end of the road and they almost have a regret of, I did grind too hard. I wish I would have given more time to my, whether it's their wife or their children or whomever. And so it's like, you listen and you learn, because you could go through your experience and then be at 80 and be like, shit, I wish I would have done that, but you don't get it back, right? So if you listen to other people who have been there, and they're almost always saying, I wish I would have spent more time with my family or my kids or whatever, I think that's something notable. And I brought my daughter on this trip, and that's because when I read the business books, they almost all say that. At the end, they almost say, I wish I would have done more for my kids. So, I have to work hard and I have to grind, but I also, for me, I make sure, for sure, I set a time for my kids both on a, hey, we take a family trip once in a while, but on a weekly basis of I'm going to do this with my kids every single week to make sure they get some of my time. And, as a Wrestling Academy owner, that can be tough because I could do 100 private lessons a week. There's that many kids who want them. Right. But, like an Aiden Sinclair. And Aiden Sinclair is someone who I love him. He's the best. But sometimes you ask things of me, it's like, Aiden, I love you. You're great. But I have to take care of my own children also. So I'm going to go home and work with them, and we're going to be done now. I know you want to keep going, but we are done now, and I'm going to go take care of my own kids. Right. So I think that, balance from that aspect also.
How do people find the book?
Amazon. It's on Amazon right now. Pre-sale comes out September 17th. And yeah, I think those people who are elite performers and the people who are willing to do the hard work and think deeply and have self-awareness, I think they're going to benefit a lot from it. And, hopefully it's us giving them the shining light, and then it's going to be them doing the work, right? Yeah. Them analyzing themselves and saying, hey, where can I find more balance? Where can I apply this? Where am I struggling? I brought up in the garden earlier the examples of Mitchell Messerschmidt and Keegan O'Toole, who are, they're number 2 and number 3 in the Hodge race this year. These are the best of the best, and they had to find a balance in their own thing, and they were good before it, but they were better after they found that balance.
I love it. And by the way, we have 2 versions of the book. If you want Joe's version, there is no balance, and if you want Ben's version, it's extreme balance. You're awesome.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.